Today on the workbench, I've got a new project here. This is a Proto GP38-2. I haven't done a Proto for a while, it doesn't seem like. So let's get into this thing. Now I do know that it does have a decoder in it. I got this off of a guy, and he was getting out of the hobby and he just wanted to get rid of some stuff. It does run really well. I'm not sure what type of decoder's in it. I just had it up on the test track there not 10 minutes ago, and I was testing it out. It does run pretty well, but it's got the stock lighting in it. So we're going to change out the lighting. Of course, I'm going to put a Blunami decoder in it. There you can see the numbers for that. And I'll end up with a Decoder Buddy in it. And I've got a couple of scale sound system speakers that I can put in. And I'm not sure what Keep Alive that I'll put in it, but I'll end up putting a Keep Alive in it. And I really do like these Proto locomotives. I mean, they have really good detail to them, and they are heavy. And they will pull. So we'll go ahead and start pulling this thing apart. We'll get the couplers out of it, front and rear. And then we'll just keep going from there. There's always got to be one. Now hopefully. Yep. So that pulls right off. We'll set that aside. And so here we go. Black tape, black tape, black tape. Do not use black tape. You can see this stuff gets old and it gets slimy. I mean, it sticks really well. Don't get me wrong there. For that purpose, it works out really well. But you can see the old lighting. And I am just I'm not going to fight with this stuff. Just going to pull it all out. Not even sure really what's going on there, and there's one of the connections. So alright, let's make this easy on ourselves. Where's my wire cutters? There's another connection, motor connection. They're just kind of shoved in there. So clip that and that. And get that out of the way. Pull that bulb out. Get that piece of black tape off of there. Move that out of the way. These are track pickups. I'm trying to keep the wires at least as long as I can. That way I won't have to add or... So there's the rear. And there's the front. Okay, so there's my jumbled up mess. So now some of these decoders that I take out, and I know this one's good, I don't just trash them. I have a bunch of MNP track cleaning cars, and they're DC. And if you don't know what an MNP track cleaning car is, I've got a couple of videos of where I've done some installs on them. But go back through and take a look at those, because they're a really nice cleaning car. They have 2 motors in them, and dual pads that clean the track. So I take these decoders, since they're just, you know, for motors anyway, and of course you could put a light on them if you wanted, but I take these decoders and I put in those MNP cleaning cars to convert them over to DCC. So, and I don't know, this is an NCE decoder. Yeah, function only. But anyway, so here's our jumbled up mess of wires that we had. And I'll get rid of all of that. I wanted to keep this plastic piece where the headlight was, so I was cutting that off. But anyway, I'll have to mill the frame on this, I think, to get the speakers in it that I want. And yeah, we've got a good start on this now. We've got everything apart. Got all the junk out of it. Like I say, it does run really well. I want to see what that is. I think that's some grease. Yeah. It does need cleaned up a little bit. The wheels do. But there, the light pipe came out of it. I'll take that out because this does have lights in the nose. Of course, we've got our headlight up here. So I'm going to hook all that up, put new LEDs in, and then we've got number boards and the rear headlight. I'm not going to fool with the class lights on this thing. So we'll have several lights to fool with. And yeah. Anyway, so let me lay out my stuff, my decoder buddy, the speakers I want, and then we'll get into this thing. I'll show you what I'm going to have to mill off. And so another great thing about these proto locomotives is, of course, this solid weight right here. But to take that weight off, you got a screw here in the back, a couple here in front, in the rear of the fuel tank, and then another screw up here. And that whole weight comes out, and I can take it down, put it on the mill, and mill that out. And it's just, I mean, it's just super, super simple. So, alright, like I say, let me go get my stuff, and I'll be back. Okay, so what I've got with the speakers, I've got a couple of UFit scale sound system speakers. And let me get out my mics here, my calipers, and I'll tell you, give you the size. So these are both 9 millimeters deep. That one's 20, 15 by 20 by 9. So we've got 15. So this would be considered 40 by 9, 15 by 40 by 9. Okay. So that's our two UFit Scale Sounds system speakers. And I don't know if you can see it or not, if there's a glare or anything, but I've got this kind of marked roughly where I want to mill out the frame. So I'm going to take it down and I'm going to cut it, and then I'll bring it back up and I'll test fit it. Like I say, I'll take this off here. Let me go ahead and just pull these. There's 2 screws here. that one out, and then we've got this screw in the back. There's that one, and then there's a screw up here in the front. That just pulls right off. We'll take a look at all that after a bit. Make sure it's clean. But there's our weight. I'm going to take that down, mill it out, and then we'll go from there. Okay, after some milling, that's what we're down to. I did go ahead and put it back together because I was test fitting, and I thought, well, while I've got all the wires run through, I'll just go ahead and put it together. But anyway, that's where we're at with our frame. So now, in case you're curious, when I started, the frame itself weighed 7.9 ounces. Now that I've milled it out, it's down to 5.5. So I took out 2.4 ounces of metal off of this. So that's going to give me plenty. I'll have my rear speaker right there. I'm going to have that little speaker up there. And then I've got the Decoder Buddy with the decoder. That'll fit nicely right in there. So we're good to go with all of our components. The Keep Alive, well, right now I haven't figured out where I'm going to put my Keep Alive. I do want to put a Keep Alive in this. I may be able to attach it up in the shell somewhere. Might be able to lay it on top of the this rear speaker. So we'll see how that goes, because I really don't want to take any more out of it. This is getting real thin right here. I know it doesn't look it from the side, but up on top it's getting kind of thin. But other than that, we're ready to go with this. So I'm going to take a little break, and then I'll be back. Alright, so came back. I did go ahead and I mounted the speakers, and I mounted the Decoder Buddy. And I use, of course, I use a 3M double-sided tape for that. So that's no big deal. Just clean everything off with alcohol real well. And that stuff sticks really, really nice. So I'm just picking that up by the speakers right there. So now I'm to the point here where I can go ahead and start wiring this up. I'm going to go ahead and do the track pickups, and then I'll do the motor. That way I can see if I got the motor hooked up right for the direction. So I'm going to remove this auxiliary board, or the lighting board, off of the Decoder Buddy. This has 1000 ohm resistors on it, and it does have the pads for the Keep Alive right there. But I'll go ahead and I'll get this ready. I'll hook these wires up, and I'll just hook them to the track pickups right here in the front and the rear. And yeah, then we'll go from there. So I'm going to do that off camera, because a lot of that is just, you know, lather, rinse, repeat. And then I'll come back and I'll show you what I've done. So let me cut out here and I'll be back. Alright, so I've got the speakers wired up, motor wired up, the track pickups wired up. So let's go over and I'll show you what I've done here. I'm going to zoom in. So we've got two speakers, and they're wired in series. So let me get something small to point with. So we've got our positive side of this speaker. It's running all the way up front here to the negative side of this speaker. And then I've got the positive side of this front speaker. It's run over to this pad on the Decoder Buddy. And then back to the back speaker, this negative wire is run up to the opposite pad back here. That gives us our series wiring. So I think you can see that. And so now, of course, the direction's right. I can go ahead. The only thing I haven't done to the board yet is solder up the pads for the Keep Alive. But I can go ahead, I can put this board on. Well, I'd like to think I can put it on. So there's what that's going to look like. Of course, I don't have the lighting board on it, but that's what we've got so far. So I'm going to put this up on the track and I'm going to test it out. And then, well, I'll be back here after a bit. Alright, we went as far as we could on the body here, except for the Keep Alive. But I'm going to switch, and now I'm going to go to the shell and start putting some lights in. Now I went ahead and I pushed out the headlights and pushed out the number boards. That's the front number boards. Here's the rear set of number boards. Got the rear lights and rear number boards out, and they just push out, no big deal, just like normal. The headlights, I'm going to use 0402 LEDs like I normally do. I'll put them in, use the Bondic in there, and I'm going to put in 2 sets. That way, if I want like a gyro light, or I'll be able to turn one light on, one light off. So that'll be good. Of course, I'll do the same back here. I'll use the Bondic. I'll get the 402 LEDs in there. The number boards, I'm not real sure what I'm going to do with the number boards yet. I really feel like I ought to light those on this for some reason. So I probably will, and I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do that. But anyway, so far what we've got, everything sounds good, it runs good, but now we're on to the real tedious stuff with the lights. So we'll move that shell out of the way, and I'll get my bulbs out. We're going to need several here. So like I say, these are 0402 LEDs. They're warm white. Yeah, not a lot you could say about warm white LED bulbs. But we'll get some of these open. I think there's 10 in a pack. So this is going to end up taking, there's 4, 5, 6 for the headlights, and then probably for the number boards, maybe at least 2, maybe 3 at the most, because these front number boards are individual. So I may have to, I've done this before, is take and drill these, set the LED in it. So that'll probably be what I end up doing, and the same with the rear. I'll drill a hole in the bottom of this, stick the LED in, and then that lights it. But I'm going to take and twist some of these together, at least 6 of them. I'll take and twist together, and you can do it a couple ways. And I've got a video on this too, on how to do these lights. You can just put them between your fingers, and if your fingers aren't real slick, you can just start twisting your wire. Go all the way to the end of it. So you can do it like that. Get this out of the way for a minute. I've also got a couple pieces of cardboard here that you can just take and, with some packing tape, you can just do that. That keeps it in there nice and tight. So I've got 6 of these to do. So let me get on with that. I don't think I can do them in pairs. I've never tried that before. So I don't think I'll try to do it today. What I'm doing is try to make that light straight, because the way they have these connections soldered on, the lights are at like, the bulbs are at like 90 degrees to the light. So that didn't work out real well. So that's another one done. And then we'll just keep going. Of course, 3 of these bulbs, or at least 3 of these, will just keep the way they come out of the package, and we can put them right into the number boards. So there's another one. So I'm going to finish doing these lights this way, and then we'll come back and we'll put them in the shell. Okay, so for these lights, of course I've got them all twisted up now, ready to be put in. But I go through and I test each one of them before if I'm using my tweezers here, smart tweezers. I'm setting it up. But I go through and test them to make sure that these things are working before I spend a lot of time on them. course, it would help if I used the right side. Okay, so that one's working. So now, so I'll start from the back here, and I'll just feed that through, and then I'll take another one here, and had it in there and then pulled it out. So there's that. Now I'll break out my Bondic. And my UV flashlight. The light on this Bondic is going bad. So really all I'm using, I take that off. You just get these tubes, and I need to get me a paper towel here. That way I can wipe that off. But now I can start mounting these in the shell. And I just take and push them through. And as long as I don't pull it out, I'll be in good shape. And I think I already pulled that one out. Yep. But that's an easy fix. Okay, so this takes a little manipulation. I'm going to turn this locomotive up on the edge like this, and I'm holding the wire with my finger, trying to get that down in there. So I've got those two in. Now I'm going to take the Bondic and just fill that hole. And then I'll set it with UV light. Okay, and now I'm going to put a little more on top. Just to round that over. Okay, so there are the two rear lights. Now I'm also going to take and put some of that inside here, and then we'll get that set. And I hold that on there for like 5-10 seconds. And that cures it. Okay. So now we've got our rear headlights. The number board, I'm going to take, find it here, there it is. I'm going to take this number board. I'm actually going to cut this down a little bit so it will fit, so the speakers will fit, or it'll fit with the speakers. And then I'll drill a hole in the center of this, cut that down, flatten it off, and then I'll end up painting this black and I can put it in the hole. So all that, well, I guess I can go ahead and drill the hole, show you what I'm doing there. So I just take that and a ordinary drill, and I'm going to do this kind of off camera here. I don't go all the way through, so I don't want to go all the way through, but yeah, just drill that hole, then take one of these lights, and I'll see how deep it is this way too. Oh yeah, that's plenty deep. That light will sit in there, and that'll light both of those headlights. But first I want to make sure that my bulb's working. Yep. And I use the same method, except this time I'm going to take and put the Bondic in the hole first. And then, oh, really, I screwed that up. I need to cut that down. So, as long as you don't hit that with any UV light, it won't set up. So, I think I'll hit it just with the light just a little bit. And I'll have to re-drill that hole just a touch, but I need to flatten that out. So to do that, I'm going to take it down and put it on my sander. So I'll be back here in a minute. Okay. So you can tell I flattened that out some. Now we'll go ahead, fill it up with our Bondic. And I'll put the light in there. I want it, the bulb facing as straight as I can get it. That way it's not favoring one side when you turn the light on. And I'll paint this black. So let's see how that turned out. Of course, once I paint that, it won't be that that intense, I guess is what I want to say. But yeah, that's the rear number board. So now I'll just kind of repeat that process up front, and I'll be back when I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and install this, and I'm going to do that off camera because it's going to be a pain to get back in there. But anyway, I'll be back. Alright, so I'm back with a jumble of wires. I'm going to zoom out there a little bit. But I've got all of the bulbs in and the number boards back in, and you can see I painted those black in the front, and then on the long hood there in the back I've got those painted. Got them all in, all ready to be hooked up. So now, and that probably took me an hour to do all of that. And that's after I'd already wound some of those bulbs up. But yeah, so now it's break time. Alright, so we're going to start the process of hooking these up. And here's our adapter board. Get this off of this. But this is our adapter board for this decoder buddy that's on the locomotive here. But I like to keep a spare one or an old one that I've burned up hanging around, just to take and I've bent the pins on this one. But just so I can take the little lighting board and stick on top of that old board. And there's two different styles. So this saves me from soldering onto this decoder buddy, or the new decoder buddy, when I've got an old one that's already ready to go. So what I want to do now, I'm going to start back here in the back. I've got that the rear light, and what I'll have to do, well, now that I've got the flux on this, let me go ahead and tin this. And gives me something solid to solder to. And I just go ahead and solder all of these positives right here. That way I can clean this off. Now let me get some alcohol. So I'm going to be using this corner up here for the rear, and then I've got all my positives right here. I'm going to get all that off, that cleaned up. I'll end up using this front one right here, and I'll go ahead and solder some of these positives up. That way I can get this board tinned and ready to go. Okay. And I just use regular old, I think this is 93% isopropyl alcohol. So I'm going to have the front lights, the rear lights, the rear number boards, and the front number boards. But the number boards I'll hook all together, I think. I don't really care if they're separate. I'll need this. So that was A6. This is the front headlight. I don't know what I was thinking. Missed that. I'm going to go down here to A3 and do that one. Actually, I'll just do all 4 of these. Sometimes it's just as easy to put the solder on the soldering gun. Or soldering tip. I'm losing my mind. Now, clean all of that off. Make that look pretty. All right. And it doesn't matter which ones we use. So we've got our number board, and we've got our rear lights. So I'm going to take and we'll cut these down, and then I'll strip them and tin them once I find my strippers, and then we can get these things soldered together, and then we'll get them soldered to the board. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera, and then I'll come back. Okay, so these rear ones, I've got all my positives hooked together into one. So now I am going to use, let's see, I'm going to use this setup here because that'll be facing the rear of the locomotive. So what I'll do is clean the tip of that off first. And then so I've got that shoved down in there. And this way too I can take, and when I get done I can clean all that off. Now my reverse lights are up here in this corner. So I know my reverse one is this double one here. So if I can get it kind of turned the right way. And really this is something that I need to be doing off camera because it is so hard to missed it. Okay. So there's that one. And now this one over here that I haven't got tinned yet, I'm going to put it down here in, so that'll be A6. But let me get that tinned. So this will be 3 of the LEDs and 2 of the lights. Just have 3 more lights. And I probably should have put that one in there first, but let me get out my handy dandy tweezers again. Like I say, this is going in A6. So there's that one. And what I'll end up doing is when I get done, I'll flip that over and then I'll cut my excess wire off. So that's the first couple of sets. Now I'm going to take these are my front lights. I'll hook these 4 positives together, and then I'll have 2 sets of blacks for my functions. So I'm going to cut all these off the same length. If I can find my cutters. And then I'll go ahead and strip these and get them ready, and then I'll put them on. Okay, so I had kind of a change of heart. I'm going to make this into it'll be 3 different sets of positives. So, I mean, no big deal. But so I'm going to take this one, and it's just easier for me to manage my wires that way. So there's the positive for that. And this one, so this was the front headlights, or is the front headlights. So I'm going to trim that one off a little bit. And I'll go ahead and put that on there kind of reluctantly, because it may end up being in my way when I go to do the rest of the positives. But so there's the front headlights. Now I'll get this bottom set of headlights, get them hooked up, and get that untwisted. Yeah, there we go. So now I can take these 4 and do the same thing with them. Alright, so I've got this pair together. Take and trim that off a little bit. And my positive a little bit. I'll go ahead, put the positive in. Well, so there's that one. Now, I'm going to come over here to A1 and use that as my function wire, or function output. So Alright, now the only thing left I have to hook up is the front number boards. So I'll do the whole process again here. Okay, now the front number boards. So another pair. So I'm going to hook this positive up back here. And I may do this off camera because I've been out here for a long time today. But anywho, let's try this. And I missed it. Okay. There's that, and then I'm going to go to A5 down here in the corner. Just because I can. So that's all my lights hooked up. Now, I'm going to pull this board off here. And then I'll cut the excess off of the back. And then we'll be able to try this thing out. See what we've got. Or what we need to take care of. Of course, I still need to put the Keep Alive in it, but there's that. That'll go in that way. Here's all my wiring. Now, we'll grab the decoder, put that bad boy in there, and we're ready to test it. I'll be back. Alright, we've got this up on the track here, and this is a nice little project to do. It sounds really good, you'll hear that in a minute. But what I want to do right now is go through the lighting functions. We've got 3 lighting functions, but the first one I'm going to turn on is the number boards. Now, since I've got these bright lights on, I hope you can see that coming on and off. So it's on right now. But of course there's the number boards. We've got our headlight. And then we've got our nose light there. And I've got the brightness turned down on it also. But we'll go ahead and we'll hit the start up button on this. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it forward here. I've got this on 128 speed steps. So it is, you know, there's speed step 1. A little on the jerky side there with that low speed. But I might be able to get that out with some CV changes. But this is an older locomotive. Hadn't been run for a while. Of course, there you can see the rear light. So overall, this was a good little project to do. It's going to be a good runner, and yeah, it's all completed now. So thanks for watching.